Hello, everyone, and welcome to Soul Basics Soul Chat. Today we are talking with Megan Henry. Megan is an international award-winning actor, director, producer, writer. She has an up-and-coming book. But what I love most about Megan is that she believes in living her most fully expressed self in order to shift to a higher consciousness and come in alignment with universal enlightenment. Welcome, Megan. I just want to say I'm super excited about our conversation today. There is so much to unpack here. If you don't mind, maybe we can just start with what led you on the journey to enlightenment, your enlightenment journey in life.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me and this sacred space. And you really are a light that the world needs. And you've expanded my universe in so many ways. So I just want to take a moment to honor you and thank
Oh,
you
thank
and
you.
welcome to everybody who's here. And you deserve to be fully expressed, right? To me, that's what a superhero is. We're all superheroes in any moment. We're all worthy in any moment. And when we give ourselves agency to fully express whatever that means to us and, follow our joy, that is one of our greatest contributions to the world.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start with that. It felt important to say that. Gosh, this has been such a delicious, wonky, messy, uh 2 decade plus odyssey of like what the f and oh my god. And you know it's so interesting. I used to think to myself growing up, well, my life is seemingly great. There's no, I mean, we all have traumas and dramas and struggles, to be
Mhm.
clear, challenges. Nobody
Right.
is immune from that. However, there are certain people, and on their journey, there's really horrific, tragic obstacles and challenges, a lot of adversity, and you think, oh my gosh, and many people move through it with such grace, and that's a contribution to the world to demonstrate, that we can transmute and alchemize and shift into more. And I always knew that something felt, I don't want to say not right, something felt incomplete
Mhm.
within me. And, I think I've shared with you before, I was adopted, not
Mhm.
yesterday, but, 1,000 years ago. And my adoption was
Mhm.
unique, especially in those days. It wasn't as common. And I didn't really have anybody to talk to that I had a hard time understanding what that meant, never mind somebody else going, you're what? What does that mean? Oh, okay, cool. But the uniqueness of my adoption, right? You have to make it legal, which sounds crazy when you're talking about a child, but it was
Mhm.
what it was, and there was a legality component and lawyers' fees and all the things. And to be clear, my parents were absolutely wonderful, and I believe we choose our parents, we choose a lot of um, our path in life in order to expand right into our dharma and our soul journey and our soul purpose. And I internalized this. Nobody told me this. I take full responsibility for the fact that in my mind, I thought that meant, okay, there's a contract and there's terms
Mhm.
and somebody else dictates the terms of my life. And I'm not exactly clear what those terms are. Can I change them? Can I see the contract? Can I change my signature? Because, now I want to make a curly Q on my G or whatever it was that I was thinking at a young age. And so I moved through the world in a state of confusion and disconnect. And adoption has its own interesting energetics,
Right.
right? Just sort of, that's its own delicate, beautiful, messy um, animal. In any event, so I knew that I had a pretty normal upbringing,
Mhm.
but something still felt off. And then I felt guilty that something didn't feel complete. And I wasn't really sure what was available to me in this life because, again, I was confused about the terms and I didn't know how to speak to somebody about it. And I wasn't, I just was sort of internalizing all of this. So I, I wasn't fully expressing. I was just dimming my light.
Yeah.
And I remember having conversations with some friends about it. I went through a terrible, debilitating, awful depression after I graduated college, which I'm sure is common. Now what's the next phase of my life? Well, now what? And I just was blessed to have these, wizards and teachers and angel healers and whoever, guides and mentors. And it just one door opened. And then, here I am sort of on this journey. But there wasn't necessarily anything that pushed me towards it other than I felt that I was here for more, and I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't know how to access that, and I didn't know if I was allowed. And that was the hardest piece for me. Again, nobody told me you're not allowed to be who you are, but I just, at the same time, I didn't really understand this sort of like bizarre, not bizarre, but interesting way to come into the world. And what does that mean? My life felt like it started off as a transaction.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I'm just thinking, one of my sisters is adopted,
Ah,
and I know, like, I don't know what it's like to be on the side of being
yeah.
adopted, but I've seen what she went through, and I have other friends that are adopted as well. But having a sister that's adopted, I've been able to see, like the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And well, I don't want to really want to tell her story. I can only tell
Sure.
her story from my point of view. And my point of view was that, she found out when she was about, I want to say 12-ish.
Ah.
And I remember how I found out was she was 6 years older than me, and she had just found out, and she popped her head in my room and she says, "You're not my sister," and slammed the door and ran down the hall to her room.
Oh,
And as a 6-year-old hearing that, it
yeah.
broke me. Like, sorry, I just have chills just thinking about it. And
Of
I wasn't
course.
expecting to even
Yeah.
share this. But I remember, what a pivotal point in life that was. How old were you when you found out? If you don't mind sharing, what were the
Oh, yeah,
circumstances
sure.
that you found out, and
Yeah.
what happened?
Um, I'm about 3.5 years old. That's when my brother came to be,
Okay.
also adopted. And then again, a 3.5-year old can only compute so much. So then it was sort of reintroduced to me. I always confuse the age. I would say probably around 7.
Okay. Yeah, maybe when it was like really
You
starting to
know,
hit home.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh gosh, yeah. I can totally relate when you said that to your sisters. But
Yeah.
I think it brings up a larger point, at least from my experience, of this sense that many of us, many of you all listening, you don't have to be adopted. So we all experience, similar themes on our journey, right? The sense of, where do I belong? Who understands me? What's my value? I don't know. Am I allowed to do this? Do I have to wait for permission? Um, what are the terms of my life? And
Yeah.
we're so conditioned to who we're not. We're like trained against our highest nature.
Did you feel that being in a family where that accepted you as one of their own, did you
Mm-hmm.
feel that you had to be a certain way because, like, maybe your uh how you would have been somewhere else, you would have been like a
Sure.
different person? Did you feel like you had to somehow put on like a mask of, this is how I have to be in this family, that there
I
was that
did, but not,
expectation?
well, not because of anything. Again, to be clear, this is all my own internalization. There's a big rejection piece, I think, that many people that are adopted or have a similar dynamic feel.
Hmm.
Um, I just remember feeling so confused. Who am I in this world?
Right.
I'm looking at my beautiful parents, but I don't relate in the sense that there's no like DNA. Not that we always look like our parents, but there's a something that I can't, it's not quite tangible. I can't exactly explain it, but I just was confused. And then I put this on myself, and this is with love that I say this, but for many years I couldn't figure out why I would wake up with this sense of, I don't know, dread sometimes feels like too strong of a word, but there was this like burden that I felt. And it was through a lot of therapy and just journaling and realizing, oh my God, I was such an asshole to myself because I took on this story and this identity that my life, right, is both a sense of pure joy for somebody, right? My parents who,
Mm-hmm.
you know, welcomed me in and raised me and loved me. And also this incredible sense of shame and disappointment that I imagined my birth mother must have felt.
Oh,
So often I walked around with shame. And so much of the time, especially empaths, we carry shame that isn't even ours,
we do.
you
Yes,
know?
we do. Wow, that's incredible. Um and I mean, I know that you have become since so much more enlightened
Mm-hmm.
where you know where you don't have that kind of feeling of shame anymore. But I just want to say that I am grateful for you as a person
Oh,
and
thank
the
you.
person that your parents raised and the family that you came from and the love that you received and the people that surrounded you to mold you into the person you are today and
Right.
how you have even beyond that like you didn't just rely on being molded by those around you. You have gone on this journey to of self-discovery, of becoming
Right.
fully expressed. And
Right.
I I love that about you. I love our conversations we've
Thank
had.
you.
I love the conversations we've had over the last couple of years. And I'm really glad that we're having this one now so that we can share it with the group because then they can
Yeah.
see how amazing you really like how amazing you are. And thank you for sharing your adoption story. I know that even people who aren't adopted and many
Right.
people who are adopted don't experience that, but I also know that people um who are live in their been raised in their biological families who have that feeling of that they don't belong or that there is
Yep.
something more out there and that kind of thing. And I think you talk a little bit about this kind of stuff in your book. You talk about gratitude, about who you are and where you're supposed to be in this
Mm.
universe. Can you unpack that a little bit to us about your book?
Sure. So, this came to me in a download, and it's a bit disruptive, which I'm all about: delicious disruption, sacred agitation, shifting paradigms. Everything serves until we elevate beyond it, or we're ready to elevate beyond it. So, let me just backtrack a little bit. I had my own toxic relationship with gratitude, and I couldn't figure out, well, going back to the piece of, again, a story that I told myself and a self concept that I adopted, interesting choice of words, was that who I am in the world is both a source of pain and a liability. Excuse me, a source of pleasure and a liability. That's what I thought,
Okay.
right? Because my birth mother, oh my God, all the pain, and that's not my responsibility to take on. But this is how I was
Hmm.
moving through the world. So, how are you going to feel like safe or even yummy about fully expressing when you feel like, but it's going to cause somebody
I
pain?
love that feeling yummy about being fully
you know,
expressive. That's,
you know what
I
I
love
mean?
that.
But at the same time, dimming our light doesn't serve anybody. And yes, when we
Right.
stand in our truth at any moment of our journey, it is going to be a source of irritation for somebody else. Not that we do it on purpose, but that's because when we stand in our light, it's an invitation, right? I heard in a meditation, they will know their truth in your light. So when we
Oh,
stand
I love that.
in who we are, it's an invitation to somebody else. Hey, hey, I see your magic too, right? But it's uncomfortable and shitty sometimes to do the deep dive because it doesn't always feel good.
It's funny that you say that. When you stand in your light, around you will cast a shadow,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so as you're inviting people into your light, they may have to go through that shadow in order
Yes.
to get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. I mean, look what's happening now collectively. Is there more chaos, or is it really just we're still perpetuating the cycle, but there's more light on the planet? There's more of us that are doing the work, that we're collectively being invited to go, how absurd does this have to get before we can compassionately go, aha, what is here for me to look at? It's finally time for me to go inward.
I love that choice of words, compassionately look at. And I think that that is the word that we need to develop, that compassion. It's compassion, it's a step beyond kindness, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're kind to somebody, it's like, oh, here, let me open the door for you. You know,
Right.
when you're compassionate with somebody, you're actually, it's that empathy. It's like, I'm opening that door for you
Mm-hmm.
and I'm asking you about your day as you're walking through, and I can feel the pain that you're experiencing,
Right.
that kind of thing. And I agree with you. It's when you can compassionately look at yourself and compassionately look at others that's when you're
Yes.
able to change the world with the amount of light that's being shed.
Absolutely. Which brings me back to the gratitude piece, so the stories that I've shared about, waking up in the morning feeling like, oh, who's gonna feel like my existing is a burden for them or a painful reminder of what was or wasn't or whatever potential, triggers they may have, which there's treasure in, again, if we can compassionately go inward. So I thought, well, how am I supposed to feel grateful for this? This sucks, and I just had a really toxic understanding of how the hell I'm supposed to feel grateful when it's that polarity, right? On the one hand, you can't know love without hate. You can't
Hmm.
feel like you're a light in the world without feeling like you're representative of a shadow in another, right? But we're all the things, which is so yummy. So I just tried to unpack it. And for years, I was paying lip service to gratitude, but I wasn't feeling appreciative of
Right.
anything. It was like, I guess I'll just try this on, attitude of gratitude. And then I would shame myself, right? We weaponize gratitude often against ourselves or another. Well, you should feel grateful. Look at your life. What do you have to be unhappy about? Wait, what? Oh, and so then you shame yourself. Well, I guess if I'm a good little, spiritual superhero, then I'm just going to feel gratitude, even if I'm not fully embodied in the highest wisdom of that. So then it came to me in a meditation. What if sometimes, not always, gratitude is a wonderful launching pad. It's a beautiful virtue. And I think it's time for a higher, like you said, compassion is slightly higher on the vibrational scale than kindness,
Hmm.
right? So to me, gratitude, where it can feel like a limiter for some of the reasons I've just expressed, oftentimes it's also exclusive. We tend to, like, the whole idea of I'll be happy when, I'll be grateful when. But what about if we shift into celebration, which has that energy of compassion, which says all things deserve love.
Hmm.
I don't need to make myself right at the expense of making another person wrong, right?
Hmm.
Compassion just lets you be where you are. And it's the energy of, I understand as a co creator that everything in my life, even if it's shitty, even if it feels like crap, even if I'm not, you know, demonstrating the highest, wisest, most loving behavior, all of it is an opportunity to expand into a higher version of myself. I don't like the word better because there is no such thing. A higher
Hmm.
version, right? What's more truthful for me? And then we can sort of lean back and get out of the mind and into the body and say, I allow whatever is happening to feel like shit. I'm going to honor it. I'm going to
Hmm.
feel the feelings. I don't need to
Yeah.
push against it. I don't need it to go away in 5 minutes. And another thing that I had a hard time with gratitude was this idea that, well, if I'm grateful, then that means I'm just acquiescing. But there's a difference between allowing, accepting, and encouraging. I can allow and accept, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to encourage more of what I don't want. And that was a big piece for me, that celebration went, aha. So if I'm in an open state of receptivity,
Mm-hmm.
and I allow the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between, then I know that there's wisdom here, that in the right time, with the right tips and tools, that the higher understanding of what I just went through, right, and the opportunity to alchemize will reveal itself to me when it's meant to. And also, I celebrate, all of the F yeah moments, and I did this and I gave myself permission, and look at the accolades and all the things. That's important too. But I'm also not limiting it to just that moment. Oh my God, look at what I created. Isn't this amazing? And what else?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We tend to cap our accomplishments, or we cap our potential oftentimes in the misapplication of gratitude. In my experience, I'm sure
Yeah.
somebody's going to go, you're out of your mind. But you know what?
No, no,
Oh, well.
no. For me, it's honestly, I agree with everything that you've absolutely said. It's like you have to feel your feels. You
Yeah.
have to, like, if you don't accept what your feelings are, like if you don't accept the fact that you're angry at this moment or that you're sad at this moment and you just
Mm-hmm.
push it down or push it away, how will you ever have compassion for somebody if you have
Right.
not experienced that feeling yourself? So
Right.
you have to feel the feels. And I do agree with you. You have to at some point you don't encourage it, but you
Right.
have to accept it. Uh you have to experience it, and then you
Yes.
can move on. Um yeah, I totally and 100% agree with that. And I can see how gratitude um can what we tell ourselves about what gratitude should be can
Right.
be a downfall. But yeah, when you can live in gratitude by living your fully expressed self, by living a higher um, enlightened version of yourself, your gratitude, it comes from a place of I've been there, I
Yeah.
felt that feeling, and I can be, I can empathize compassionately with this other person and be grateful
Right.
for my experiences that have led me to being compassionate for that other person and grateful for
Yeah.
that other person to now share some commonality
Right.
with me.
Absolutely. And again, to your point earlier, when you astutely said that compassion, right, is higher up the energy scale of kindness, when we really can take responsibility for everything that is or isn't showing up in our lives. Again, healthy boundaries. We absolutely do not have to encourage toxic behavior from ourselves or another. But, the compassion piece, I think that's also what's going to shift us from a cancel culture to a collaborative and a compassionate culture, when we can say, rather than, oh my God, you should be grateful that that idiot broke up with you. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, maybe. And there's also a piece of hierarchy in that. Nobody's better or worse than anybody else. Rather, what if we step into, again, I celebrate that this relationship ended, and I celebrate that this person showed up in my life to reflect back to me what's
Mm-hmm.
ready to go in myself. So I send them a blessing. I don't have to continue talking to them, or maybe who knows what your highest path is. But in that way, we start to
Mm-hmm.
see everybody as co-conspirators in our evolution.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Everybody has a place in our life, and it all depends on
Yeah.
how we are going to reflect on that, right?
Yeah.
My words for this year, I usually pick two words in for the year, and it's been perspective and meaning.
Oh, I love
And
that.
it's tough. It's tough to find
Yeah.
perspective in some things. Like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
lie, like life
Yeah.
is not easy. But when you can just kind of sit back and go, okay, this is happening. I need to have a perspective on this so
Mm,
that I can either find the meaning as to why it's happening,
Yeah.
or I can make it meaningful.
Yes, I love that.
So, so that's been, kind of, where I'm at this year's perspective and meaning. And I love, sorry, I'm just thinking of everything that you've said about gratefulness. And that has given me so much to think about as well, and so much pause for thought, um, for me to have that perspective and meaning, as
Yeah.
things happen in my life. So, with your upcoming book, when can we expect it? Do you know?
I don't know exactly yet. I'm still in
Okay.
the writing process, hoping to have the manuscript in a couple of months. And then, I don't know which route
Yeah.
of publishing
Very
is going to make
exciting.
the most sense. It is. Oh my gosh, now I'm thinking of the perspective and meaning. It's so beautiful. And, we talked about earlier, sort of pre-chat, right? When we shift our perspective as you're doing and you have that inner alchemy, that's adding tremendous value to the world,
Hmm.
whether we realize it or not. So many of us are taught you have to be big, you have to be on stage, you have to be Tony Robbins, you have to be, manifesting ex monk, teaching law of attraction and driving a Maserati. And, great. All of that is wonderful. And also us in our everyday, some may say ordinary moments, when we take a moment and
Yeah.
we look at our perspective and we shift it into a meaning, right? Then we're perpetuating that out into the world and giving other people permission to do that as well. I mean, we forget that value, it doesn't need a massive demonstration. It just needs like a tiny subtle acknowledgement, and then that ripple effect is profound.
Yeah. Thank you. That just takes me back to our pre-chat as well. When you had said, there was a line you said, and it was about value, about who we
Mm-hmm.
are. Do you remember? You said something to the effect of, "We're alive. We've been born. That's our value."
Yes, yeah. We are, again, society teaches us bigger, better, faster, more. You've got to, especially talk about the shadow in a
Hmm.
lot of self-development spaces and a lot of coaching spaces. Well, are you adding tremendous value? Okay, first of all, what does that mean? That's different for everybody. In every moment we're shifting. First of all, the fact that I am divinity, having this human experience and letting the universe move through me, I am alive, ergo, I am valuable,
Yeah.
because it's not for us to decide. Again, if our presence triggers somebody, that's offering them an opportunity. And I know your audience doesn't think that I'm suggesting go out there and be an asshole. No, but when you're
No.
having when you're having your moment and you're existing and you're trying to figure out, how do I get back to more love and compassion for myself? That's That's value. When you're triggering somebody unknowingly, right? That's offering them an invitation into
Hmm.
the shadow within themselves. And then when we fully express in every moment, which to me is what a superhero is, everybody's a superhero. Give yourself
Absolutely.
permission. And, it's interesting, this whole idea, which also gets spoken about in a lot of, coaching spaces and self development spaces. And I had a hard time with it. I felt like I was being gaslit. um this idea of, well, are you living your purpose, are you living your purpose, are you living your purpose, what again, what the f does that mean? My purpose is I'm alive, having an experience, just figuring it out.
Yeah.
The things that light me up, oh, okay, I see that that's really what's wanting to move through me with greater potency and urgency, and this is how I like to experience myself in the world.
Yeah.
But my purpose is being
Your
alive.
purpose is
And
being alive, and then you become more fully, I think, aware
yeah,
of that purpose of being alive, the more enlightened you become. Because sometimes we forget that we're alive and we exist, and that we,
yeah.
are functioning humans of society, and that we are integrated amongst other people. And, that is just so important. And when we are not so involved in the rat race of life, then we become more aware of the fact that we are alive and we are worth it
Mm.
and all of that. And that we
Oh.
become more in tune with that purpose of, we are in a line with the universe, just because we're
Right.
aware of how important we are in that chain, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I love this conversation, and I could talk with you like, well,
I know.
I
I'm
hope
so
I
jazzed.
forever. So I hope that you will come back again, and
Yes.
we can further our chat for everyone. But
I would
before I
love
let you
that.
go, my last question is, what makes your soul soar?
Ooh, I feel like I'm going to get emotional. And I am, discovering it. Again, for me, it's that I get to dictate the terms of my life. I create my own contract with my heart and soul, and I don't need to wait for permission to fully express. It's a big shadow that I've been unraveling and taking action because it lights me up without the need for a guarantee, and trusting that I'm safe in that, and that is of tremendous value to myself and others.
I'm emotional just hearing you say that. Like seriously, like I'm quite teary because it just it touches me. It touches my soul. And thank you so much for being with us
Oh,
today,
thank
Megan.
you.
You're
Thank
amazing.
you.
And I really
As are
look,
you. Thank you.
oh, thank you. And I look forward to having you back again.
Oh,
Thank
that
you
would
so
be
much.
amazing. Thank you.